Welcome to the first video on this channel. My name is Tori, and today I want to talk about a scene from Hazbin Hotel that had a strong impact on some viewers, myself included. If you're new to the series, Hazbin Hotel is an adult animated musical created by independent artist Vivian Medrano, also known as VivziePop on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter. My goal with this video is to walk through what happens in the scene, explain why it hit some people the way it did, and hopefully make it easier to understand and process. To keep things organized, this video will be split into 3 parts. First, I'll walk you through what actually happens in the scene. Second, I'll talk about why it hit some people the way it did. And third, I'll explain why that reaction didn't sit well and what might have caused that sense of discomfort or confusion. This scene does get a little graphic in some places. Some moments are more intense than others. Because of that, I'll be giving content advisories as we go. And I'll also add timestamps in the pinned comment below so you can skip anything that feels uncomfortable. Those timestamps will include simple descriptions of what's being skipped. Nothing overly detailed, just enough to help you decide what you want to avoid. This scene takes place in the middle of the first musical number in Season 2, Episode 7, Weapon of Mass Distraction, during the song Brighter. Throughout this number, we see flashbacks of Vincent Whitman's life as a human, the things he did to end up in hell, and eventually how he expired and arrived there. The musical number shifts from showing Vincent's past to showing his demise. Up until now, we've seen Vincent removing anyone who stood in his way as he climbed the corporate ladder. But with no explanation or transition, the scene suddenly cuts to a wide shot of an abandoned waterlogged aquarium. Several heavy CRT-style televisions of different sizes are suspended from the ceiling by power cables. Some even still have their stands attached. Despite this, every one of them is turned on. In this space, Vincent stands at the front of what looks like a cult-like gathering. A group of people stands with him in the water, listening to his monologue. Before we go any further, I want to give a quick disclaimer. We're about to talk about how Vincent met his fate. If this part feels uncomfortable, please check the timestamps in the pinned comment below so you can skip ahead if needed. At the peak of Vincent's speech, right at the height of the song, one of the power cables holding up a CRT television snaps. The TV falls and lands on Vincent's head, somehow perfectly encasing his head like a helmet. This electrocutes him instantly. The electric current spreads through the water and removes everyone else in the room along with him. Now that I've explained what happens in the scene, let's talk about why it hit the wrong mark for some viewers. The first reason this scene hit a sore spot for some viewers is that it doesn't match the tone set by the earlier visuals in the musical number. Before this moment, we saw flashbacks of Vincent eliminating competition as he climbed the corporate ladder. Then, without any setup, the musical number suddenly shows him leading what looks like a cult. Nothing in the earlier visuals prepared us for this, which creates an immediate tonal disconnect. On top of that, this scene breaks several in-universe rules established earlier in the musical number. The flashbacks appear to take place between the 1930s and the 1970s based on clothing, home decor, and technology. Characters react the way real humans do. We see grief, fear, and realistic emotional responses. This suggests the world follows rules similar to our own. Animals don't talk, nobody has superpowers, and gravity behaves normally. Because this world mirrors our own, the immediate question becomes, why is everyone standing in such an obviously dangerous space? Heavy electronics are hanging from power cables, the floor is covered in water, and nobody reacts. There are small animation hints that the crowd might be hypnotized, but the show never explains why Vincent would have this ability. Again, major disconnect. Before we continue, please check the pinned comment for timestamps if you'd like to skip the more graphic detail. This next part breaks down the rapid tonal shifts. The scene begins with a close-up of a CRT television hanging from a single power cable, its wiring visibly strained. On the screen, the TV shows a live broadcast of Vincent in black and white at first, then his eye flashes red. Nothing in the story explains why this would happen. Because every previous flashback has been literal, the viewer assumes this detail is literal too, which makes the red eye moment confusing rather than symbolic. The scene then cuts to a wide shot of the same TV slowly lowering, but now with a blank screen. This blends confusion with suspense, two incompatible emotional signals. The viewer doesn't know whether they're supposed to feel horror or uncertainty. Tonal whiplash hits again when the cable snaps and the TV bounces upward before falling, a slapstick exaggeration timed with the height of the song. Comedy signals suddenly clash with horror signals. Normally, mixing comedy and horror in a realistic flashback might create tragedy. Here, the scene becomes surreal instead, too exaggerated to be tragic, too graphic to be comedic. The brain can't decide what it's seeing. As the TV falls, the angle suggests it should strike Vincent and fall off to the side. Instead, it drops straight onto his shoulders and perfectly encases his head, something that is physically impossible. Because the show's world mirrors ours, the viewer expects physics to apply. The sudden rule breaking makes the moment feel uncanny rather than dramatic. The TV is powered off, yet it still electrocutes him. Again, impossible within the story's established rules. The electricity spreads through the water and removes everyone in the room. This should read as tragic, but instead it adds even more tonal whiplash. Literal, symbolic, dramatic, surreal, all signals collide at once. Before we continue, I want to pause and give one final stronger content warning. The next section briefly describes a graphic frame from the scene involving body horror elements. If that's something you don't want to hear about, please check the pinned comment below for the timestamp so you can skip ahead safely. We then see a split-second close-up of Vincent's injuries: melted mouth, bloodshot eyes, a shard piercing one eye, and a hollow TV interior that could not logically function. This is the most graphic frame in the sequence, and it breaks the show's own world rules yet again. The scene ends abruptly with no closure or explanation. Then the musical number continues immediately afterward. It feels like a moment pulled from an entirely different story and dropped into this one. All these issues, genre clashes, tonal whiplash, and repeated rule breaking, pile together. The result feels like a puzzle piece from a completely different box, forced into place just because the edges fit. When a scene doesn't match the tone or logic of the moments before it, our minds get confused, and confusion alone isn't the issue. The problem begins when that confusion turns into caution. Once we realize how hazardous the environment is, and then notice the crowd standing motionless in that danger, confusion escalates into shock. We feel unsettled because nothing explains why these people are there or why they aren't reacting. As the scene continues, that shock deepens, not just because of what's happening, but because the emotional signals keep clashing. Rapid genre shifts and sudden tonal changes stack confusion on top of fear, creating an overload the brain can't sort through in real time. The moment throws multiple emotional cues at the viewer before the mind has time to understand any of them. When that happens, processing becomes difficult and the scene refuses to file away. That lingering feeling isn't obsession, it's just the brain trying to categorize something that refuses to fit. There is one folder this moment can go into: unhinged rule breaker category, the space where the brain puts things that don't follow their own world's rules and feel too chaotic to process in the moment. And if that doesn't quite fit, you can always put it in the same mental bin as Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's. Similar chaotic energy, completely different execution. I sincerely hope this video helped you understand the scene a little more clearly and maybe gave you some closure around why it hit the way it did. I'm not an expert, just someone doing their best to break things down in a way that makes sense. So if anything felt a little sloppy, thank you for your patience. I'm still learning. If you want any other scenes from Hazbin Hotel or anything else broken down like this, feel free to leave a comment. And if you're interested in a video exploring the parallels between Springtrap and Vox's stories, let me know. I already have the title picked out, Vox's Springtrap Incarnate. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.